Welcome back to BLOCKTV. It's time now for a predictions market where we're going to take a look at what some of the big names in crypto are predicting for the future of Bitcoin. We're going to cut through the mess and see what analysts are saying and hold to account those who are just seeking for a headline. So with the market in free fall, finally finishing off those last dregs of the gains we saw in the last 6 months, let's see what analysts are saying for the future of where this market is headed. So today we're going to take a look through the trending narratives that are playing out in the market with a specific focus on how analysts are interpreting this latest bear move. Because the big question on everybody's lips still seems to be, is the bottom in? So to kick things off, let's take a look at a friend of the show, Tone Vays, who cites his credentials in the latest dip going back a whopping 6 months, eons in the crypto space. Tone says in his key tweet on the subject, and I quote, 6 months ago at hashtag consensus 2019, at CryptoMan Ran and I bet on hashtag Bitcoin pulling back to 4,500. Price of BTC was up about the same, but trending up. Now it's trending down. I'm just as confident today as I was then, 6 months to go. And offers a video of himself and fellow analyst Ran Nuna talking about this 6 months ago at Consensus, to which we saw a response from the one and only Ran Nuna in which he came out saying, calm down, Tone. It's going nowhere near 4,500. Well, we're still several months out from the next consensus, but it does seem like Tone Vays is more right than he is wrong at this point. He's still saying that there's some space to fall. He seems to have been true in the sense that that previous hump that we saw that took us all the way up to 14,000 was just a plug, a push, a bubble as it were, and that really now we're back in a range that seems to be more healthy for the market, more realistic for the market, depends what sort of narrative you want to talk about. But the prevailing sentiment doesn't all seem to suggest that the 4,500 range is an inevitability. We've got a tweet here from Cole Garner seeing distinct technical indicators that suggest an entirely different bottom. And I'll quote, he says, confluence forming around the 6,400 area as BTC's highest probability bottom. Logarithmic channel bottom, volume point of control for the last 2 years at Philb's estimate mining production cost floor. I don't expect to see a weekly close below that. He has an accommodating graph to show us what he's talking about. Now, commentators were quick to point out in response to Garner's tweet that although there is still plenty of room to drop below a mining production floor, the fact that 6,400 might be the point that squeezes a bunch of miners out is not actually meaning that it's a floor to the space at all. In fact, that could actually start a cascading effect that could cause an even further drop closer to that 4,500 or even below, as Tone Vays was predicting. But if this is to be believed, and that's the point at which miners would be squeezed, that 6,400 mark might prove, and has in the past, proven to be a good floor at which the markets are not willing to drop below. We'll have to see what is to be believed. Have we hit the floor or do we have further to drop? But we've got our Crypto Rand weighing in on this, pulling on Bitcoin's relatively short history to find comparisons that can be used as a precedent for this market run, stating that, and I'll quote, it feels like mid-2017 all over again. Everyone panicking on hashtag Bitcoin drop, China banning stuff here and there, and media calling death of Bitcoin. But we all know how that year ended. And you know what? Might make a fair bit of sense. Crypto Rand has some points to be made there. Back in 2017, things were not looking good. There was that September shutdown that we saw from China where they crashed down on a number of different marketplaces domestically inside the country, much like what we're seeing here. But the fact of the matter was, as we saw towards the end of September 2017, and from the end of that year onwards, there was a huge run-up throughout November and December. The year is coming to an end, but that narrative run that towards the end of years there is a big boost in crypto markets has remained true in the past. Past predictors do not necessarily make up future realities, but there is something to be said for this. These markets grow rapidly, they grow fast, and with a swing low that we're seeing right now, it could potentially be preparing for another swing high. But can these narratives really be believed? Alex Kruger points out that one of the pervasive narratives for growth that was supposed to dominate the space has failed to pan out. Tweeting, and I'll quote, remember how the Fed printing money was supposed to make Bitcoin prices explode higher? Quantitative easing is rocket fuel? Fantastic narrative. BTC is down 30% since the Fed started expanding its balance sheets in August. Big facts. Now, Kruger's point is certainly a reality. The fact is that we've seen a return to those sort of late night repo operations that have been taking place across the Fed, where billions, hundreds of billions have been printed overnight operations in order to boost liquidity in the US system primarily. And we're not seeing that reserve turn into a massive boost for Bitcoin. We're not seeing that growth coming actually into play. Does that mean that the whole narrative of risk-off investment for Bitcoin is a reality, that quantitative easing doesn't mean anything? No. But there are so many factors at play here. We've got to remember we're talking about a truly global phenomena here, and as much as we'd like to show the US is dominating the space, maybe Chinese investment has something to remember about it. There are a few key things we need to remember when considering the long-term game of where the Bitcoin market might head. Firstly, like it or not, the halving is coming this May. At current rates, just to give some points of reference, there are approximately 1,800 Bitcoin being produced per day. And it costs about $16.2 million. That's $16.2 million of fresh liquidity coming into the market in order to maintain price stability. This will all change in May of 2020. This will be cut in half. Both those two key numbers will be slashed in half, something that is a fact-based reality for the market. Now, whether that's already been factored in to how the market is dealing with it, it's going to put a tough squeeze. Talking about that production rate, that production floor for a lot of miners, that's going to cut that floor in half and cause a lot of problems for those miners who are currently trying to stay afloat. They may be squeezed out of the market, which is exactly what the Bitcoin system is supposed to account for. How will they survive? Will they survive into the next year beyond May 2020? It remains to be seen, but there are many saying this is incredibly bullish for what the market will do. Scarcity goes up, and as does price. Furthermore, Bakkt saw a record end to last week with 2,728 traded contracts valued at $20.3 million. This implies that institutions are looking to jump into the market regardless of retail sentiment. And furthermore, even in researching for this piece, I can tell you I had a hard time finding a truly long-term pessimistic analyst out there. Most are saying that this consolidation is not only expected, but also necessary and will play out what could be a spectacular 2020. But regardless of what narratives play out in the long run, one thing does seem stable, and that's at least according to the self-described wolf of all streets, Scott Melker, who states that Twitter is as toxic as I've ever seen it, encouraging for the market. Well, if Twitter toxicity is the metric for market growth and development for Bitcoin and others, then certainly we've got a lot of that out there regardless. People are alive and well in this market, excited for what comes next. I'd love to hear what you guys say is going to come next off from this market predictions. So much out there to speculate on and worry about. But in the meantime, stay with us at blocktv.com for all the latest in news and information. I'm Asher Westrop Evans. Thanks for watching.
For more news and updates, follow us on Twitter.